You know, we often think we've got the big stories of history all figured out. But today, we're digging into the work of a 20th century scholar who's going to make you question some of your most basic assumptions about where our modern world, from constitutions to economics, really comes from.
So let's just start with a question that might kind of blow your mind a little. What if the very first written constitution in history
wasn't from ancient Greece or the Roman Republic or even from Philadelphia? It makes you wonder, right? Is that neat and tidy timeline we all learned in school maybe missing a huge piece of the puzzle?
Well, take a look at this. A document known as the Constitution of Medina was put into effect way back in 622 AD. Now, to put that in perspective, that is almost 600 years before the Magna Carta and more than 1,000 years before the U.S. Constitution. Seriously. And understanding this one single document is the key to this whole explainer.
Okay, so can we really call it a constitution in the way we think of one today? What was actually in this thing that makes that claim so powerful? Let's break it down.
For its time, this document was nothing short of revolutionary. Think about it. It took a city of feuding tribes, we're talking Muslims, Jews, and pagans, and it forged them into a single political community, an ummah. It did establish the prophet as the final judge for disputes, yes, but, and this is key, it also guaranteed religious freedom and physical security for everyone. It declared the whole city a sanctuary, and it created a pact of mutual defense. This wasn't just some simple treaty. It was a blueprint for a functioning, pluralistic society.
So who was the scholar who dragged this incredible document out of obscurity and into the spotlight? Well, as it turns out, he wasn't just some quiet historian. The man was an intellectual force of nature.
His name was Dr. Muhammad Hamidullah. He was born in Hyderabad, India back in 1908, but his life's journey eventually led him to Paris. And it was there that he'd spend most of his career and become one of the most profoundly influential Muslim thinkers of the 20th century.
And his output, it was just staggering. This chart, which only covers his work in French, shows that the vast majority of it, 85%, was articles. That tells you he wasn't just writing dense books for other academics in an ivory tower. No, he was a very public intellectual, constantly shaping popular conversations all across Europe for decades.
And his work was so much bigger than that one document. His French translation of the Quran is still one of the most popular versions you can buy. He basically created the modern academic field we now call Islamic Economics. He was like a real-life manuscript hunter, unearthing and publishing hundreds of lost and rare texts. It was all part of his life's mission, to build a complete, systematic account of Islamic political and legal thought.
Now, all this work on the Constitution was really pointing to a much larger idea for Hamidullah, that in classical Islamic thought, you just can't separate religion from the state. They're woven together.
You see this theme running through all his writings, like in this book, Islam, Philosophy, and the Sciences. He consistently argued that faith provides the essential DNA for everything else, and that absolutely includes law and how you govern a society.
This really boils down to two key ideas: Deen, which is religion, faith, the spiritual path, and Dawla, which is the state, the political machine. For Hamidullah, these were not two separate things. He saw them as totally intertwined, almost like a soul and a body. One provides the spiritual principles, the Deen, and the other, the Dawla, gives them a physical structure to exist in the world.
And the anchor holding this whole system together is the core theological principle of Tawhid, the oneness of God. The thinking goes like this: if there is one single divine source, then all of public and social life should reflect that unity. Your laws and your politics should be guided by that one single ethical compass.
This integrated vision also pushed him into another pioneering field, economics. Remember, this is the Cold War. The world is being torn between two polar opposite ideologies, and Hamidullah steps into the ring and argues for a third way.
He didn't reject free markets. Not at all. Instead, he framed Islamic economics as this genuine alternative to both totally unchecked capitalism and the iron fist of state-controlled communism. It's a system that tries to walk a really fine line, protecting individual business and innovation, but doing it within a framework of social welfare and clear ethical boundaries.
Now, the most famous rule here is the prohibition of riba, or interest. But the really crucial question is, why?
Well, according to Hamidullah's research, it all comes down to risk. A fixed interest rate puts all the risk on just one person, the borrower. The lender gets paid no matter what, even if the borrower's venture completely crashes and burns.
So the Islamic model just flips the script entirely. Instead of a lender versus a borrower, you get partners. The person putting up the money and the person with the big idea, they share in the risk and they share in the reward. It completely transforms finance from a cold transaction into a true partnership.
But you know, a legacy this massive is never simple. For all of his pioneering work, Hamidullah was also deeply controversial. What looked like a brilliant revolution to some looked, well, deeply dangerous to others. Some ultra-conservative groups actually attacked him, calling him a reformacore. Now that sounds like the word reformer, but trust me, it was used as an insult. It was a derogatory term, basically calling him a heretic, someone they thought was corrupting the faith. So what was it about his work that they found so threatening? Well, the answer really lies in his method. Hamidullah simply refused to be stuck in one orthodox box. He published works on rationalist philosophy. He studied and wrote seriously about different Shi'i legal traditions. He drew on thinkers from all across the spectrum. For those who believed in rigid sectarian walls, this kind of intellectual pluralism was a huge threat. And this really brings us to the central question of his whole legacy. Was he a pioneer, just dusting off a lost tradition that was always there? Or was he a reformer, actively reshaping that tradition to fit the modern world? Like with most great thinkers, the line is pretty blurry.
And maybe that's the most lasting part of what he left us. The life and work of Muhammad Hamidullah forces all of us to ask a profound question that feels more relevant today than ever. How can modern societies draw from ancient wisdom without becoming prisoners of the past?